Hi, my name is Laura at Laura Talk Softer because I tend to talk loud, and you'll never see me with one of those little fuzzy microphones. If you watch my other videos, I have no mic, but you will hear me loud and clear, hopefully. Anyway, I've been thinking of something, and so I'm making a more serious video. I have many videos where most of them are just, lighthearted things that I'm doing throughout my day. Just some of the stuff on the news, maybe just random stuff, walking through the community, just sharing stuff, sharing, bits and pieces of my life. And I've been thinking heavily on some things that I've seen recently and that are in the back of my mind, and I connect these dots, and I just wanted to share it with you. Share it so much that I actually wrote notes on it. Now, I don't usually write notes. Very few of my videos am I looking at stuff. I just randomly talk. That's me. Anyway. So it's kind of thinking of the word phrases, in our language and communication, and when we talk and in a culture, that word phrases that we get used to, and then we connect to certain things and how it becomes acceptable and it becomes a norm or something. And I'm talking about in crime. So this is crime related. So it makes me, I'm going back to like the 70s. I grew up in the 70s, and you would hear a lot of people were drinking and driving, and people were losing their lives. And it was just like, oh, they were drunk. They were intoxicated. And it was kind of like a little slap on the hand. It wasn't considered a crime. It was like, oh, well, that happens, oh, very sad. Well, in the United States today, 37 people die in drunk driving crashes. I Googled now. Some of these, you can look it up for yourself. I don't know how factual this is, but we know people are driving and they're drunk, and they may be drunk or they may be impaired by drugs. Anyway, you had in the 80s, in 1980, it was founded in California by a woman named Candace Lightner. And she had lost her 13-year-old daughter because of a drunk driver, somebody who had a history of drunk driving. And in her anger and pain, she started a movement, and it was Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. And it changed to Mothers Against Drunk Driving to make it not be the driver, but the driving. But anyway, and it was... They believe, MADD, M-A-D-D, believes in a world where everyone is safe to live, work, and play. So, through her mission and the group of people that she united against this, that people were losing their lives, that we are going to look at this seriously, laws were passed, one being passing the federal 21-year-old minimum drinking age in 1984 and adopting the 0.08 blood alcohol concentration limit, to be able to say, hey, you're, impaired drunk driver. Anyway, in 1986, helped popularize the concept and phrase of designated driver, all things that we're familiar with, right? So there's that. So we had where we accepted it at one point in time, and then somebody, people just get mad, how many lives have to be lost. So then we move the mid-1980s, you had a concept of road rage. It was a term coined in Southern California, the busy Southern California, LA freeways, where road rage, it has become a criminal offense. It's seen as a clear intent to cause harm, and people get really angry in their vehicles and, end up, having a lot of tragedies happen that way. You Google road rage incident, you see it happening across the country now. People, you don't think, oh, it's road rage, something happened, It's become like a word we're used to. Then in 1993, this word was used, even though from 1970 to 1997, going postal. You had more than 40 people from 1970 to 1997. More than 40 people were killed in at least 20 separate shooting incidences involving, post office and post office managers. And it just became like when somebody gets out of control, they go postal. And then then it moved into where you started seeing more workplace violence, where somebody loses their job and then they go in and do all this crazy stuff. And it's like you see it on the news and you don't, oh, that again, right? It's no longer as shocking as it was. Like we have become desensitized to this kind of stuff. So then you had the school shootings in 1999. You had Columbine High School in Colorado, where 12 students and one teacher lost their life. And that was like, oh my God, somebody, in a school, a high school, a student, two students, they're mad, whatever. But then 2001, you had other shootings. In 2001, You had the terrorist attacks of the World Trade Center, terrorism. We got to watch out for these terrorist networks, acts of terrorism, right? 2012, you have Sandy Hook, where it was like, wow, this is an elementary school now where 6 and 7-year-olds, 20 of them, died like children. Really? Okay. Not shocking enough yet? School shootings. All right. Then we started calling them mass casualty events. You see that, being written, mass casualty events, where, I don't know, what is a mass casualty event? 2, 3 or more people, just, people being shot at, whatever, stabbed, whatever it is, blown up. I don't know. In other words, we got used to murder-suicide. Murder-suicide. Oh, another one of those. Wipe out your family and then kill yourself. Yay. You can just put it in Google, murder-suicide. You'll see cases happening each day, something going on somewhere, or they're working on trying to figure out what was the cause, what was the catalyst. All right. So here is where I've come to with this video that I've been seeing, and it had reminded me of something because of all these other things that we've become accustomed to. We are having, let me get this right. I want to get this right. Things that are calling random acts of violence or random killings. So about 100 miles from where I sit right now, a 73-year-old woman was at the mall, and leaving the mall, I think she worked there or something, something to do with the mall, and she was stabbed by a 19-year-old who just said he wanted to kill somebody. And he stabbed her multiple times and took her life. He didn't know her. There was no connection. There was no road rage. There was no anger. There was nothing. He just wanted to kill somebody. And then it reminded me of the killing in 2018 at the Oakland BART. Now, BART is Bay Area Rapid Transit. It's a train that runs through the Bay Area. 18-year-old Nia Wilson was waiting for the BART with her sister, and a guy stabbed her in her jugular and watched her die. He stabbed her sister and somebody else. The other 2 survived, but she died. He then proceeded to leave the scene, change his clothes, all this stuff. He's locked up in prison now. They for life. They don't know what his motive was. First, they thought it might be racially motive, but it wasn't that. He had then they thought it wasn't that. He had a history of schizophrenia and mental illness. He had done other stuff. He had had restraining orders from different places and people that he had threatened. He had been serving time for a crime and had been released. He was just not well, And every time it seems like these random acts, and I heard another random act of violence happen. I'm not even sure what, because it's like all these things come in your phone when you see one story where a guy lost his life in a restaurant bathroom and they don't know what was the cause of that. I don't know if you came across that. I couldn't find it again. But it's somewhere, I think somewhere in the Midwest, but if you put it in Google's random acts of violence. So random acts, is that going to become where, another random act, that's acceptable? Is that acceptable that we got people walking around that are just no prior reason to think about it? They just want to do a random act of violence. It's not a gang initiation. It's not it's just, whatever their mind is doing, it's a random act of violence. I don't know. Was that what that guy who killed those college students, was he doing a random act of violence? Just randomly picked? I don't know what it is. But what I get sick and tired of hearing is, well, Ronald Reagan closed all the mental hospitals, and we don't have any place to put the mentally unstable people. And, putting them in prison isn't the right place. I don't care where you put them. A rubber room, I don't care where you put people. But you got a history of odd behavior on the street, and you're doing really odd things. Like today when I'm walking around, I saw a guy. He was swinging like a block around his head, like in a bag, swinging it. And then he started screaming, and he started beating up the thing that you pushed across the street. He clearly was not in his right mind. He clearly had aggression in him, and he had I don't know what he had in the bag. I saw another couple. They're going around looking like they're a little bit out of their mind. And I can see on them are scissors in a backpack they're carrying and screwdrivers. It's definitely tools for self-defense because I don't, like, who's going to be their enemy? Is it they're afraid of attack? Will it be something that, who knows? I don't know what's going on in people's minds, but there's these random acts of violence. So yes. We keep blaming, I keep hearing about Reaganomics. Ronald Reagan was a president in the early 80s, wasn't he? Early, mid 80s? He's gone. He's been gone a long time. It needs to be fixed. Get these people off the street. Keep them off the street. I don't care like what it is. They don't have to be considered criminals, but keep them off. Lock them up. Let them stay and, play cards all day and eat graham crackers. Keep them locked up, right? It's not acceptable. Anyway, my name is Laura at Laura Talks Softer. And it's just, I don't want random acts of violence to be just another word that that was just a random act of violence. How do you avoid that? I'm Laura at Laura Talks Softer. Have a good day. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I always say, this is Monday, and whether this video finds you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, whatever day it is, or Sunday, I hope that you have a good day. Choose joy, choose kindness. And it's like, I don't think it's unkind to lock people in a secure, safe setting so they don't harm others or themselves. We got to get back to that and be serious with it. Peace.